This is the Montana Outdoor Podcast, brought to you in part by Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer in Missoula, home of Boss Snowplows, CM Truck Beds, and Diamond Sea Trailers. Just go to rmtte.com for more information. And by Superior Hardwoods of Montana, home of the largest selection of in-stock high-end wood products and flooring in the western United States. Let them guide you through the woods at superior-hardwoods.com. Now, get ready for more fascinating topics and the most interesting people you will ever find in Montana's great outdoors. We offer new podcasts most every Saturday. You can get a link to these podcasts by going to our website, montanooutdoor.com, or by going to our Facebook page, or just send an email to Downrigger at montanooutdoor.com and say send a link to my email. It's that simple. Now let's head out with your host, Downrigger Dale, and see what's going on in Montana's great outdoors.
Thank you very much, Manny. And as Manny just said, I am Downrigger Dale with the Montana Outdoor Podcast. And continuing our series here, we've been having a great time talking with wildlife managers all across the great state of Montana. By the time we're done with this series, we'll have covered all 7 FWP regions of the state of Montana. And that's going to give you guys out there that listen a really good picture as to what the hunting is going to be like all across the state. And we like to try to zero in on some of these regions and really give you a good picture of what's going on and that. Now, a few things to remember before we get started, and we're going to be covering Region 4 here, is when you got to this podcast, whether you came through Apple Podcasts or Spotify or any of that, there's a podcast description. And in that description, if you scroll down, you're going to see in bold letters it says links. And when you look below that word links, you're going to see a whole bunch of different links on all kinds of things. For example, here in Region 4, there'll be links to their block management program. There's going to be links to regulations, all kinds of things. You can either click those links as we go along here, or you just come back to it anytime. This podcast isn't going away. It'll stay here forever. So you can always come back here, click on the links, and read through and get even more information. So that's that. Another thing I want to do real quick that I always do is I want to welcome our active military all around the world. It's just an honor to have the men and women of our United States military, when they get some time off, choose us to catch up on what's going on at home. So just want to thank you for your service and hope this brings back a little bit of home. Hope you get home soon and home safely. So thank you for your service. All right, let's bring in Corey Lecker here. He is the wildlife manager of Region 4. Corey, thanks for taking some time out. I know this is a busy time of the year for you, but I appreciate you taking some time out to talk with us today. Great. So, Corey, before we get started learning about Region 4, let's learn a little bit about you. Tell us about where you're from originally and how you got into this whole wildlife management thing.
Sure. I grew up in northeast Nebraska. Went to school at University of Nebraska. Grew up hunting and fishing the Missouri River system all through Nebraska and South Dakota. And started actually in fisheries right out of high school. Worked at Gavin's Point Dam fish hatchery. And then I decided to go into wildlife. When I went to the university and range and wildlife program, and ended up working for the Nebraska Game Parks all through college. And then after college, applied in Western states because I enjoyed hunting elk in Mexico, Wyoming, and other parts of the country in Colorado. And so I always knew I wanted to keep heading west from Nebraska. Worked in western Nebraska, and then Wyoming and the Red Desert for a contractor doing habitat and survey work. And then ended up moving to Montana, got a wildlife biologist job here in Great Falls in February of 2003. And worked mainly the Highwood Mountains, Little Belts, Big Belts in north central here in Region 4. And then our old supervisor retired about 5 years ago, Graham Taylor, and I applied for that position and became manager. So I then became manager and then ever since. It's always been based out of Great Falls.
Okay. So you've always been there in Great Falls. So Corey, when you chose this profession, did it turn out to be everything you thought it was going to be?
That's a good question. The part about being in the field is the best benefit of this position, not as manager, as a biologist. Spend a lot of time in the hills. It's obviously not the greatest paying career in a state agency, but it is rewarding with the time you get to spend out in the field and visit with hunters. You can visit with hunters 24 hours a day, as you know, whether you're in grocery store or church, it doesn't matter.
Do you get, does that sometimes bother you a bit as far as, that's about all you ever get to talk about? Or is it just that you love it so much it doesn't matter?
It depends on the person. But it does, at times it gets a little old. You're trying to watch your daughter's volleyball game or something, and somebody's showing you pictures or whatnot. It really drives my wife nuts.
Oh, well.
Because you can't go to a barbecue or anything, and all they want to talk about is hunting.
Yeah.
Or fishing, because I fish a lot too.
Yeah. Yeah. Or, when you have these radio guys get you in the middle of your workday and make you have to do a podcast. But this
is my first podcast.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully it'll be kind of like going to the dentist. You'll feel some mild discomfort and then a numbing sensation.
It's like coming to work.
All right. Well, so now that we've learned a little bit about you, Corey, let's learn about Region 4. Tell us about Region 4, how it's laid out, and what some of the main characteristics of Region 4 are.
Sure. I think Region 4 is probably has the most diverse landscape in the state. We're in north central Montana. Our northern boundary is Canada, and our western boundary of the region is basically Continental Divide in the Bob Marshall Wilderness complex and the Rocky Mountain Front. And then as you head east across the region, you move east off the Rocky Mountain Front, following the Missouri River system. We have the Sweetgrass Hills and other isolated mountain ranges such as the Highwood Mountains, the Judas, the Moccasins, the Snowies, the Castles, some of the Big Belt Complex and the Little Belt Complex, and the Sun River drainage, the Missouri River drainage, and the Teton River drainage, Smith River drainage, flowing through the region. So it's very, very diverse. It goes from all the way to east of Winnett, where it turns into the Missouri Breaks, and then south down towards Martinsdale into the Big Belt Complex, and everything in between. So it's a very, very diverse region. Also within our region, we have 9 wildlife management areas that total about 110,000 acres, mainly utilized for big game winter range. And we have a lot of elk winter range, mainly elk, but other species as well. But those are also within the region. And we have, I think we have 14 conservation easements and about 40,000 acres under perpetual easement in the region as well. So really diverse region. Every game species and bird species in Montana is in a region.
Wow. So yeah, you are not only diverse in landscape, but very diverse in wildlife as well. As far as the region goes, as far as hunting, with it being that diverse, is there any one area, whether it be big game or game bird or any of that kind of stands out more than the others? Or as far as the hunters go, is it pretty balanced across the board as far as all the different types of hunters you get?
It is honestly pretty balanced. We have a lot of game bird hunters that show up from all parts of the country that hunt, the grassland, native grasslands for Sharpies and Huns. And then we'll have the pheasant guys come in and our upland hunters targeting pheasants. But we also have a lot of folks that show up mountain grouse hunting in the mountain foothills and rough grouse hunting in the riparian zones of the mountains. And then we have elk. Obviously, elk and deer hunters come from all over as well. But I think it's pretty balanced.
Okay. And what about as far as private land versus public land hunting opportunities? How is that set out in Region 4?
Sure. That's one of the toughest challenges for our hunters is our region is about 21% of Montana. So it's pretty darn big.
Yeah.
But of that, it's a little less than 25% public land, about 24% public land. So that plays a huge role in a hunter's planning for the season and getting access on private lands. Our private landowners play an important part of our habitat in our region and access for our region. So that's a little different than obviously Western Montana and even some parts of Eastern Montana where you have larger blocks of public lands. But we do have, 25% is still obviously a fourth of our region's public land, but some of that you can't get to very well, obviously. But that does provide a lot of opportunity as well, not just on private lands, but we do have some good public land opportunities as well. And then we also have some of our programs that provide access to those private lands.
Yeah. So when we look at the access, do you feel you're getting pretty good participation then from your private land owners?
I think it depends on the species. We still have a large component of traditional landowners where if you go knock on a door and really get to know them, that you can obtain some access. It really depends on. It's a lot of difference if you're trying to access for a bull elk or a white-tailed doe, obviously, but most landowners are pretty darn good.
Great. Yeah, that's so important. That probably is where I get a ton of my emails is, what about the, access to private lands and how is that going and all that. And I think that's really across the whole state. It's I wouldn't say it's a battle, but it's a kind of a balancing act. And I know you guys really are in the middle of that balancing act and how you get them all to participate. And we'll talk some more on that as we go into it. But let's look at some of the hunting opportunities. The FWP recently put out what I think was a really good report on, especially for big game, where it talked about what the hunting forecast would be like. And again, for those of you listening, you can always go down to that the links down there in the podcast description. And I'm going to have a link to Region 4's hunting forecast. And that'll give you a really good idea of what's going on out there and kind of the tops of the trees. But digging into it a little bit more, as far as what that's looking like out there, let's take a look at, say, elk to start with. How are your elk populations doing? And is there, one part of the region that tends to be a little bit more dense in elk than others?
Sure. Yeah, we do have a lot of elk opportunity in our region. I think we're gaining on Region 3 in total elk harvest. And, we have a growing elk population in a lot of places and in some places where we don't want elk in more agriculture areas. But I think it's for elk opportunities, it's really diverse as well. If you look at our region, the western part of the region, if you want to go, we have an early rifle season in the backcountry, which starts September 15th.
Mm-hmm.
So you have a backcountry opportunity on a general license on the Rocky Mountain Front and Bob Marshall Wilderness. So those districts are all general season. We do have general season opportunities, or general license, opportunities in the big belts, majority big belts, the little belts. And then we have a lot of smaller elk populations where it's private land, public land, mixed to where it's limited entry. It's such as the Missouri Breaks, the Highwood Mountains, maybe the Judith Wildlife Management Area, the Beartooth Wildlife Management Area. So there's limited opportunities there for antlerless and antlered. But we have, across the region, very diverse season types. depending on the location. Obviously, a herd of elk such as the Sweetgrass Hills, where you're talking 400 to 600 elk, it's pretty difficult to have a general season type. You might not have any elk left after a few years. So those are managed a little. They're managed a little differently. We're really liberal on our antlerless hunting opportunities. If you look at the regulations, where you could buy a Region 4 B license, which covers a lot of districts in our region on private land primarily. So you could harvest up to 3 cow elk if you played the game right, to try to mitigate those growing elk populations, which is a challenge in itself, as you've probably heard from other folks.
Yeah. So, for those people that just want to fill the freezer, and, let's face it, a lot of hunters, that's what we're looking for, is just some great meat to eat. Elk is damn good table fare, that's for sure. So I would say Region 4 is probably an excellent opportunity for those of us that just want to get a nice freezer full of elk meat.
Yes, it can be. It can be. Our antlerless draw districts are pretty good odds of drawing and pretty high success rates. The B license that you can buy over the counter, those are unlimited over the counter, so anybody can buy one anytime. Some folks take advantage of the early shoulder seasons, which start August 15th to the start of archery. And those are mainly for private lands that have high concentrations of elk and alfalfa fields. They're coming off of maybe the forested environments down into private lands. And then archery season starts. There's the dead week between rifle and archery. Some districts have an open time for cow elk those days. And then there's the late season that goes December 1st, sometimes all the way to February 15th. It depends on the district and the landscape, but there is a lot of opportunity to hunt cow elk in the region.
Yeah.
I think another one is the bow hunting opportunity. Folks maybe don't want to harvest a cow elk during bow season, but there's definitely that opportunity there too. But the kicker is that the private land access, again, as on those B licenses in a lot of districts, can be challenging. But I think once the trust is obtained with a private landowner, and you harvest a cow elk, a lot of folks, you're welcome back. They want hunters, and that's one of our bigger challenges. I think that's later in your podcast is one of the challenges. And I think if you look back at our diehard elk hunters, they're an aging population. They really are, the cow hunters. Kids nowadays, they're all showing pictures of the bull they shot, and they don't want to shoot a cow. So it's I always think of folks like maybe my dad that comes out. He's 76, and he'll take a cow elk if he can, but he's a true meat hunter.
Yeah.
Those folks are all aging, and the mountains aren't getting any flatter.
Yeah. Yeah. That's another reason that it's great great to go after the cow, because as we get a little long in the tooth like myself, it's what the heck, a cow isn't too bad. You can pull the truck up and load it up and go.
Hopefully that works out.
Yeah. So, I think that's something to definitely consider and take a look at. And would you say, when you're talking to landowners where, they would like to see some of those elk, thinned out, do you think you get a little bit better chance of access when you're when you let them know that, hey, I just want to get some of those cows?
Yes, I think that's a great foot in the door, even for deer hunting. Is that antlerless opportunities are obviously a lot better for deer than elk, but there's a lot of landowners who are begging for good elk hunters that are willing to come out, get to learn the ranch, and then harvest some of those elk.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, good idea for those of you listening that, and I think that's something I've tried to remind people each time we do these regional podcasts is to, when you're going and asking for permission, don't just say, hey, can I hunt here? I mean, get specific, tell them what you want to do and all that. And then, of course, plan ahead. And I can't say that enough. I also hear from a lot of landowners, and that's one of the things that they say a lot is, I don't mind letting people have access, but this knocking at my door at 5 a.m. saying, hey, can I hunt? That doesn't fly too well. With folks.
Yeah, we hear that a lot too.
Yeah.
And it's one of the challenges with the private lands is that anymore is, some of these landowners don't live here. And then the ranch foreman or the ranch manager can't give the permission, or getting a hold of them is really tough. They're, from calving season, then they're haying, and then they're doing cattle work throughout the year, obviously, or they're farming. And they don't want to be bothered during hunting season, but then they obviously don't want to be bothered during the non-hunting season either. So I think, tactically going in and, ended up fixing some fence, maybe helping them spray weeds, maybe helping them with brandings, and getting to know their friends and family, obviously goes a heck of a long ways. So that's the biggest challenge, and some of these landowners, you can't blame them for denying access. By the time I always think about the smaller size ranches, say 1,000 to 5,000 acres, if I'm a landowner, if I like to hunt, and my brothers and sisters and my wife's brothers and sisters and their kids and my kids, and they bring home their friends from college, by the time I let all those people hunt, there's not a lot of room for the average Joe public.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the public don't realize that, how many people actually that are friends and family that come to hunt on those ranches and properties.
Yeah. And, like you say, helping out, the way I describe it is you earn your keep a little bit, and that's also just a great way to learn about the ranch and where they're at and all that. If you're out there helping them with branding and stuff too. So not a bad idea at all. As far as elk goes, are there any recent regulation changes that we should make sure we remind people of that might have changed in Region 4?
Elk, we did limit a little bit in the Missouri breaks in 410. We got rid of one of the B licenses, and as our elk numbers came down back to objective, not really too much of regulation change there. 415 in the northwest corner of the region, up against near Glacier National Park and the Blackfeet tribe, that regulation switched from either sex to antlered bull. So not much cow hunting opportunity there, anyways. Mm-hmm. But no, not too much on elk this year.
Okay, all right. All in all, before we get off the elk, any ideas as far as for people that just want to get out and learn the region for the first time? Would there be one particular district or two or three that you would say, yeah, that's a good place to start?
I get that question a lot.
I'll bet you
do. I think probably the busiest place we have is the Little Belt Complex. If you're coming from eastern part of the country or southeast of Montana, it's one of the first general districts you hit, or group of districts you hit when you come into Montana. Mm-hmm. Eastern Montana for elk is pretty much all draw. And so you go northwest of Billings, the Crazies, and then north it's the Little Belts and the Big Belts. We get a lot of people that come to the Little Belts from both archery and rifle season. So it's really busy. The other districts are pretty much draw until you hit the Rocky Mountain front. And the Big Belt Complex also is general season type. A lot of folks that come here, one of the questions we get is, where can I go hunting where there's no grizzly bears? And in our region anymore,
that's pretty tough.
Really can be anywhere. So I think it depends if you want the Rocky Mountain front experience where it's really diverse and it can be really steep and a lot of bears, or chance of a lot of bears. That's the place to go. But it really just depends on what you want. If you like the prairie breaks where it's more open country, and basically out the mountains turned upside down, you can go exploring there on the general deer license and learn it, and then apply for a rifle or archery draw in subsequent years.
That's a good
Or even
idea.
coming out antelope hunting if you draw. We get a lot of antelope hunters throughout the region, and just learning the district for deer and elk as you do that. So I think that's one of the things that we do hear a lot from a hunter. If they draw a special permit, they say, "Okay, I drew a 417-20 rifle bull tag. Where do I start?" And I always want to say, "Well, you should have started before you drew."
Yeah.
Because now you're in a tough spot. Because if you don't have a boat, you don't have access to private. Now you're setting yourself backwards. So really doing the research before you draw. Just don't try to draw because it's the easier draw. Do some research before you apply. And even the backcountry, I think it's pretty overwhelming for folks. The little belts are pretty big. The big belts are big, but you start getting back in the wilderness, 5 to 10 to 20 miles. It's pretty overwhelming for folks, and newcomers can get themselves in trouble not being prepared for that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's one, unless you've got a great deal of experience in that area, then you start thinking, it might be better to use an outfitter or something where you can get guided around, because boy, that's tough. And then those guys fill up quick. So all in all, would you say your elk herds are pretty healthy then? Things going well?
Yeah, our districts are all at, or we just finished the elk plan, so some of those districts have changed the population objectives, but our elk herds are doing very, very well in the entire region. The places where they are down a little bit, I would say, is mainly like 410, which is the Missouri breaks, but they're down by design because we wanted to harvest a lot of cows. Along with the cow harvest, we've had 2 tough winters and 2 to 3 years of extreme drought. So in the Missouri break system, you probably heard that from Region 6 as well, that elk numbers are actually down over there a bit, deer especially, which we'll get to, but elk numbers are down. So they're closer to objective over there. The bulls are still doing very well, but the calf production and recruitment hasn't been as good over there as we have in other parts of the region. But overall, the entire region, our elk herds are doing very well. Too well in some cases.
We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to take a look at mule deer and then also whitetail and lots more. So we'll do that right after this. Hey, I want to tell you a bit about one of the great businesses that is responsible for making this podcast possible. I'm talking about my friends at Superior Hardwoods of Montana. They're a well-established Montana company with origins starting way back to 1977. They've been proudly serving the Missoula community and, well, far beyond that since then. Yeah, so no matter where you're listening, they can help you. Now, again, if you have been listening to this podcast for a while, you know that some of the things Superior Hardwoods is most known for are their extraordinary flooring lines. In fact, a majority of those are manufactured right there in their lumber yard in Missoula. And speaking of flooring, they just introduced the Timeless Pre-Finish series. Now, this is a series designed to simplify the overwhelming task of remodeling and replacing the old worn-out flooring in your home. This new series allows you to effortlessly transform any room pretty much instantly. This flooring is made in America and comes in pre-finished maple, hickory, white oak, red oak, ash, and reclaimed oak. It's just beautiful. It has a superior quality sealer and matte finish to it. Now, this totals 6 coats of durable protection on the floor. But along with all their different flooring lines and their acres of reclaimed beams and lumber, they also offer fantastic products to complete your remodel. Thousands of feet of alder molding and hundreds of square feet of stunning antique paneling. Just beautiful stuff. That's going to make your home feel special to you and your family and friends every time they come see you. It's kind of amazing when you think about it, but when you work with the folks at Superior Hardwoods of Montana, you'll be able to create a look for your home that says who you really are to all who stop by. I guess what I'm trying to say is it completes your remodel project to the point that your house just doesn't have a new look or updated look to it. No, it becomes much more than that. Not just a house you live in, but it is now uniquely your home. And it'll feel that way, not just because the project is completed. No, it will feel that way every time you and your family and friends walk through the door. That, my friends, is the difference that Superior Hardwoods of Montana makes. Stop by their showroom in Missoula, Montana today if you can, or give them a call at 406-251-2272, or just visit their website. It's a great way to get to know them at superior-hardwoods.com. That's superior-hardwoods.com, and let them guide you through the woods. We're back here on the Montana Outdoor Podcast. Corey Lecker is my guest. He is with Region 4, wildlife manager there. Let's talk about mule deer. It's been kind of interesting as I've been talking to different wildlife managers across the state. In some the mule deer have really struggled a bit, and in others not too bad. What is it looking like for Region 4 for mule deer? How are your mule deer herds?
Sure. Yeah, I think you've probably heard that across the state for the last couple of years, especially the last year or two, about mule deer, and even the West on mule deer numbers in declining in a lot of states. And our region, we're actually sitting pretty good in much of the region. We, like I said, it's very diverse. So we go from high elevation migratory herds in the backcountry on the Rocky Mountain front to we have the breaks so we have 33 hunting districts in our region. We survey in the spring 18 of those 33. So a little over 50% of them that we do a trend area survey, which we try to get a snapshot of what's going on in the springtime. So see how the fawns come out of the winter. And so much of our region has been under a restrictive package, which is antlered buck only with very few antlerless opportunities. And we've had that since really about 2010. I think our region has done a really good job being proactive on reducing antlerless opportunities when our deer numbers were down in 2010-ish. And then we've had winters in 17, 18, 19, and 22, and droughts, really bad drought in 20, 21, 22, where there's very, very limited opportunities for mule deer antlerless hunting. But overall, if you look at our long-term, the buck harvest, which is, pretty consistent, everybody's hunting bucks every year. And if you look at the buck harvest, our region, we're only 9% below long-term average over the last 60 years. So we're not that far down below. We have different packages. We go through our adaptive harvest management mule deer plan to where we can have liberal season types, which is either sex on your general license to lots of B licenses. And then as deer numbers, as they decline, or depending on what's happening with the herd, with fawn production, recruitment, weather conditions, obviously, we switch that to a more limited opportunity, especially on antlerless. And then on your general license, we switch that to a buck only, so they really limit the harvest of does. So
that would
just kind of depend. It depends on the region, really. One of the things along with the weather, thing that's changed for us the last probably 10 years, maybe 15, mainly probably 10. Along with northeast Montana, is we've lost a lot of acres of CRP that converted from CRP back into grain production. And that CRP component of the landscape for us in northern part of Region 4 really reduces deer populations in general, from wintering areas to fawning areas, et cetera, et cetera. And the droughts have really, in eastern Region 4, have really hampered the breaks. The last 5 years, between 2 winters and 3 droughts in the last 5 or 6 years, that's caused us to really go to a restrictive package over there. The mountain deer are down in pretty much the whole state, I'd say, but it's nothing different here. I think we have a lot of competition with elk and whitetails in some districts parts of some districts that are hindering some mule deer populations. People always say it's predators or whatnot, but I think we've always had predators in a lot of places. But Mother Nature we really need a long string of good weather, like we just had this last winter. Was a really mild winter, pretty good spring, and if we have that for a couple of years in a row, our deer numbers can really come back quickly. But so I'd say we are down a little in much of the region, but especially eastern part of the region. But we do have places just like you're close to Great Falls and Belt and Highwood along the Missouri River where we still have 500 or 600 bee licenses in that district.
Wow!
It's just one of those. It's one of those districts that it's really productive. It's really good farm ground with the Missouri breaks and haven't had the winters or droughts near as bad. Really good hunting access, and so that one we really keep cranking on the bee licenses to keep up there. So I think again, it's probably a general statement, but it's pretty diverse across the region. Depends where you're at, whether it's a migratory herd or if it's the Missouri breaks. But we're down a little bit, but not nearly as much as I think other parts of the state.
Mm-hmm. And so, as far as say the better hunting districts for just the general muley hunter out there, any particular districts? Any particular districts that you would favor recommending, and then 2, are there any particular districts that the regulation change has been pretty dramatic that we better really check before we go?
Sure. I think really you could hunt mule deer in any district in our region. Access is a little bit tougher, private land versus public land again, but like the northeast side of the Little Belts are doing pretty well. North and west side of the Highwoods are doing well. Along the South Rocky Mountain front's doing well. The stuff in north central, northern part of Region 4 is doing well. It's a pretty good opportunity anywhere in the region. Really are really good districts where we had a lot of mule deer. If you go east of the Highwoods and the Arrow Creek breaks and Judith breaks into the Missouri breaks, that was really, really good in like 2017. Lots of bee licenses, lots of opportunity, lots of public land, private land opportunities. But since the drought and the winters, that's really been diminished, that opportunity. So folks are having to go other places and maybe work a little harder to find mule deer like they were before.
Okay. Let's move on to whitetail and talk a bit about that. How's the population numbers looking for those, and where are the best spots to find whitetail in Region 4?
Sure, I might go back to your previous one on mule deer just one more time because
go ahead
to address the changes. So 410 and 417, where it's just got a lot of public land, a lot of elk hunters. Those for this coming season are now limited entry for mule deer. So you can't hunt you can't hunt mule deer on a general license over there. You can still hunt whitetails, but those are limited entry for both archery and rifle.
Oh, okay.
426, which is next door to there, mainly the Arrow Creek breaks and Judith breaks. That has a general season type for the first 3 weeks, and then it goes to limited entry after that for the last 2 weeks. And then the limited bee licenses, there's a handful in all those break districts. But for 410, 411, 412, 417, 419, and 426, if you draw one of those, they're valid on private land only.
Oh, okay.
Trying to keep the public land deer on public land and not harvest those deer.
Yeah, we've heard that on several of the other regions too. So yeah, that's one. And in the podcast description under that links, I've got a link to all the Montana regulations. So they're all there. So just click on that, find mule deer, and then really zero in on where you're going and make sure nothing's changed. I guess the theme, if you guys have been listening to a bunch of these podcasts, the theme is don't assume anything is the same. Make sure and change. And these regulation changes, I think one of the other things I want to point out is those regulation changes are reacting to, what the herd is doing and what Mother Nature has done. So you guys really have to keep a close eye on all that, because that's kind of how you manage, isn't it? By using the regulations to kind of drive the hunting where it needs to go.
Yep, that's right. Based on our surveys, based on the weather, and feedback we're getting from landowners and hunters, season changes like a season structure change. We can do that every 2 years. So that'll be, this package right now will be in place for 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
The drawn antlerless or bull tags or antlerless B licenses, or I should say bull licenses, not tags, but those we can change every year. So say we have a really good fawn crop coming up this year and next year for antelope, we can change that every year. But the season structures we can change every 2 years.
Got it. Okay. All right.
It's nice to keep them the same for as long as you can, but there's oftentimes we have to be reactive to what's going on in the environment. Mother Nature doesn't let us just keep it going the same forever.
Yeah. She, Mother Nature just does her own thing, and you got to react. So on the whitetail, what do you think the numbers are looking like for whitetail in Region 4? Healthy population, not healthy? What do you think?
Yep, whitetails are doing very well. Too good in some places. We have whitetails coming out our ears in some places. We have a general license opportunity in the entire region. You can shoot a whitetail anywhere, any district, except I think 455 is the only one. And then we have an over-the-counter B license, so everybody can buy one of those. And then we also have, I think it's 2,000 this year, B licenses for whitetails. So that gives a hunter an opportunity to buy another one through the drawing, or apply for one, and then if they come surplus, buy as many as you can up to till they're gone, up to 7 deer licenses per hunter.
Wow.
So if you play the game right and travel to other regions or within our region, you can get up to 7, but not too many people do that. But we do have, whitetails showing up in places you don't see them quite often, higher country, higher elevation places. We had a EHD outbreak in the early 2010s. That really came through the Teton, Marias, Missouri River systems, and knocked them way down. But that usually comes with when numbers go down, the habitat responds, good habitat availability, and whitetails, as you know, can be very productive.
Yeah.
Way more so than mule deer. So they really come back. So in reacting to that, we implemented more B licenses a couple years ago. So the hardest thing I think anymore is to get enough people that want to harvest enough antlerless animals.
Yeah. Again, if you like the meat, there's your opportunities.
Right.
So check that out. Any regulation changes for whitetail that we better pay attention to here?
No, we don't have anything changed for whitetails this year. Nope.
All right.
Nope. We're pretty much about I'd say 45% of our deer harvest is whitetails. The other half is mule deer. So we're about 50-50 on mule deer and whitetails on our harvest.
What about pronghorn in Region 4? What's that looking like?
Well, pronghorn Region 4, another one, as you've probably heard, last year and some of the year before, we really reduced our antelope hunting opportunities. The 900 archery has stayed the same. That's the archery draw, which you can hunt any open district. But then our rifle districts is where we really tweak our doe fawn licenses and our buck licenses. So since 2019, we had that hellacious winter in 2019.
Yeah.
Killed a lot of antelope, a lot of deer. And then subsequently, we've had multiple years of drought. This year obviously wasn't too bad, but we are still down in a lot of our districts. We did increase our licenses this year in quite a few districts because they're starting to come back. The worst spots we probably have are in Eastern Region 4, Missouri Breaks Country, just because of the extreme wet winters and then all the years of drought. Antelope can really come back priority one, been pretty slow coming back. And folks will probably notice that if you have a license this year looking around. Highwoods, Geyser, Stanford, north side of Little Belts is doing real well. White Sulphur Country, we lost a lot of antelope, 19 and then 2 winters ago. The snow was fence post deep and lost a lot of antelope there. So we reduced our antelope licenses a lot 2 years ago, and then after 19.
Mm-hmm. But
slow coming back, but
would you say Region 4 would be a decent destination for antelope?
Yes, it would. Yep. It's like you say, it's very big. Our districts are big. There's lots of scattered public lands. Most farmers and ranchers are really good about allowing antelope access. Hardest part's probably finding the farmer. Some of these farmers are getting pretty big and leased out to the property owner might be from another state. You might travel 10 miles, 15 miles and not see a farmer ranch house. So it's pretty hard to find the landowner.
Yeah, you got to get those property maps. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but it's pretty good opportunity, and our success is really good on our both of our Dauphin and our either sex licenses.
Any major regulation changes for your antelope in Region 4?
Nope, we haven't changed any regulations, just our license numbers.
Oh, okay. All right. How about black bear for fall black bear season? What's that look like for Region 4?
Fall black bear, the archery portion of, it opened the same as the archery deer and elk, and then September 15th switches to any weapon. We harvested a lot of black bears this spring again. Our black bear numbers continue to grow and expand. Black bear hunting is actually becoming really popular since COVID hit. Getting people in the woods. We have a lot more black bear hunters. Good black bear hunting opportunity. Most of our fall black bear hunting is incidental to deer and elk, both archery and rifle, But folks, it really depends on the berry crop. If you're in these private or public foothills, coming off the isolated mountain ranges or the Rocky Mountain front, the bears really hone in on those choke cherry patches and hawthorns. And folks, if you find concentrated areas where bears are really using it, can be really fun hunting. But yeah, good opportunity for black bears. And then as the berry crop dries up, which it's doing right now, bears will start shifting to other food sources, and then it's really just kind of opportunistic hunting while you're deer and elk hunting. Yeah,
so you got that bear license in your pocket, and if Yogi happens to cross your path, you grab that. So, yeah.
Yep. We do have a lot of bear hunters that really like fall bear hunting just because of the meat, and the fat component on the bear versus the springtime. Better tasting bears.
Since we're talking about bear, you brought up obviously a concern with grizzlies, and that's getting to the point almost of anywhere in Montana. Obviously, further east you don't see them as much, but in your region, Region 4, that's something we really do need to take seriously, don't we? Talk about where in Region 4 is probably a higher degree where you really got to be. I mean, you should always be on alert no matter what, but any areas that stand out in your mind that you really need to be careful with?
I would say, our highest concentration of grizzly bears is the western part of our region, northwest, the Rocky Mountain front, all along the Rocky Mountain front from Canada all the way down to Interstate 15. They're at Cascade, Wolf Creek. Grizzly bears, a lot of grizzly bears. Well, there's some black bears, obviously, throughout all that landscape, but grizzly bears are really, really growing in numbers and expanding east. We now have bears showing up quite often in the Big Belt complex. We have a few in the Little Belt, a few in the High Woods, a few in the Judith River moccasin country by Lewistown, Denton. So really when you start talking the riparian zones that come out of the Rocky Mountain front, so the Marias River, Teton River, Sun River, those bears really travel those riparian areas.
Yeah.
So if you're hunting in riparian areas, definitely be on the lookout. But in those travel corridors, But I think it's like you mentioned, to be prepared, and we do have some great resources on our website for watching how to be prepared in bear country, from just carrying bear spray and knowing how to use it, to securing your meat, securing your food, all that kind of stuff, your attractants.
Yeah.
And then what do you do after you get an elk down? How to get the meat away from that carcass, the boneless method of taking care of your animal, get it out of there quicker.
That's
Lots of different things to take into consideration anymore with grizzly bears.
Yeah, and I think I'm glad you brought that up. That on the FWP website, that's a really good one to just go back through and familiarize yourself, because some of those tips are excellent, especially like you say, when you get an animal down. That's where things can get kind of dicey if you're really into that bear country, and so learn about that, because last thing we need is we don't want to have to be checking hunters off the list. So be careful out there on that. We're going to take another quick break. And when we come back, I want to check in and see what wolf hunting is like over in Region 4. And we'll also find out if we got any mountain lion opportunities too. So we'll check on that and have more with it right after this. My friends at Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer are proud authorized dealers of some of the most highly revered brands in the world, like CM Truck Beds, Diamond C Trailers, and of course, Boss Snowplows. Now, I know some of you may not want to think about this right now, but sorry, we have to face the fact that before we know it, fall will be over and winter will be with us for a long time. Now, last winter, we got off a little easier than in the past years, but this year it will likely be much different. Now, why do I say that? A while back, I did a podcast with Matthew Rosencrans in the National Weather Service Climate Prediction Center. He said that his long-term prediction models show that Montana and other areas in the Northwest are in for more precipitation this winter. Could be lots more. Of course, that means snow, and that means driveways, parking lots, and roads will need to be plowed. And of course, that means you'll want a Boss snowplow to get the job done quickly and perfectly every time it snows. And that, my friends, can only mean one thing. You need to talk to Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer right now about a Boss snowplow for your truck, tractor, ATV, or UTV, or whatever you're going to put it on. You need to do this now before they run out of them. You'll be prepared for what is coming, because not only will you have the best snowplow in the world that is perfectly designed for what you want to put it on, but the folks at Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer will install it for you so it works the first time and every time. Now, this is the time, my friends, to be ready this winter with the best. A Boss snowplow from Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer. Now, if you're in the area, you can just stop by at 5680 Expressway in Missoula, Montana, or you can just go see them at rmtte.com. rmtte.com. Take a look at all the Boss snowplows they have right now, as well as the other equipment like CM Truck Beds and Diamond C Trailers that will also make your life so much easier this winter. Yeah, there's no better place to get ready for winter than Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer. Go see them now at rmtte.com. That's rmtte.com. We're back here on the Montana Outdoor Podcast. Corey Licker is with me, and he has been filling us in on pretty much everything you'd want to know about Region 4 and getting some great information. Let's talk wolves in Region 4. How prevalent are the wolves there? Would you consider Region 4 to be a good area for being able to harvest some wolves?
Well, we get that question quite often too. Folks still buy a wolf license and throw it in their pocket in case they ever run across a wolf, which doesn't happen real often. We have some pretty good wolf hunters and wolf trappers, mainly along the Rocky Mountain front. That's where our highest population of wolves exists, coming out of the Bob Marshall Wilderness. in the Blackfeet Reservation in Canada. But it's really tough. We don't have the numbers of wolves as we do in western Montana. With our private land interface coming off of the Rocky Mountain front, the private landowners and the access and the trappers do a pretty good job of harvesting wolves. And then we have obviously livestock depredations where wildlife services may come in, USDA wildlife services may come in and take out a few wolves if they get in trouble. So we don't have a skyrocketing wolf population. Our wolf population is probably pretty darn stable. We harvest somewhere around 15 to 25 wolves every season through trapping and hunting. But to say you're going to just go out and go wolf hunting, I wouldn't say Region 4 is a destination.
Okay.
There's some folks that know how to get back into the wilderness and really get after them and maybe have some success. But for anybody to just come and say I'm going to go hunt Region 4 for wolves, I'd say good luck.
Okay. Good point.
We get one random one that's taken out east in the central part of the district or our region, or maybe in the big belts, or one in the little belts once in a while. Just kind of happenstance,
Mm-hmm.
But no, it's wolf hunting is definitely open. Wolf trapping is open in our region. Just opportunities are not abound.
Okay. How about lion hunting? Any good lion hunting in Region 4?
We do have some pretty good lion hunting in Region 4. Again, it's tough for houndsmen. We kind of have our houndsmen that have their areas in the region that they hunt. The public land opportunities are pretty good in the little belts and some of the big belts. And the hardest thing in our region is the land ownership patterns, where people lion hunt. You have to have permission on a couple different ranches or multiple ranches if that lion decides not to tree in your chase. And the public land, private land interface, there's not a lot of road systems, unlike western Montana, where lots of roads, lots of access, all public land, or a lot of public land. It's a little bit tougher in our region. We don't have, even the Little Belt complex, there's not a lot of roads for lion hunting. And that's really our limiting factor we have quite a few districts that don't close during the season. It's not because there's not enough lions, it's just because of the access and the weather. We have, if we get a good snow here, chances are you're going to have houndsmen out as much as they can that first day, because we get the Chinook winds that come through, and it blows in our region from October till about March, it seems like. So we don't, our snow conditions are pretty tough in our region for lion hunting.
Okay. All right. Let's move on to birds. How are your bird outlook doing? Let's go ahead and maybe start with waterfowl. What's the waterfowl season looking like for you guys?
Sure. Waterfowl, well, that's mainly a federal thing where they do their surveys up north. We do some waterfowl surveys for nest surveys around Freeze-Out Lake, and then we monitor the migration around Freeze-Out Lake. Our biggest attractant for the region, excuse me, is probably Freeze-Out Lake, and then the Missouri River system, and then around Tiber, around Valier, Lake Francis, hunting the fields around there. But our Canada goose population is really good. We winter probably 50,000 geese on the Missouri River system alone.
Wow.
Last year wasn't like that. It was just a weird year. They didn't even come down. But this year, I think the toughest thing is going to be water. It was pretty dry this summer. And then the 2 previous years of drought, a lot of our smaller wetlands are pretty dry, if not dry. Benton Lake Refuge here north of Great Falls has been dry for 4 or 5 years now. So it's kind of hit and miss. And it really depends on the system, if they hit the rivers or not, if they stay. Or if we get some snow and it blows the ducks out, or it covers their food up,
Mm-hmm.
But waterfowl hunting can be pretty good. There's more and more people doing it seems like. Season opened just last weekend.
Yeah. What about
so good
upland game bird?
Pretty good waterfowl opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
Upland game bird is looking really good. We had some good habitat last summer, and then a milder winter. and then pretty good spring moisture that kept that habitat going. And then it dried up pretty good right around June 1st where our hatching period comes in, and we had some really good hatches. So after the 2019 winter, our birds were really, really low due to that winter, but they've been coming back really well. Our hun population is really good. Our sharp-tails are coming back. Mountain grouse hunting is pretty darn good. And then the pheasant hunting should be really good this year too.
Yeah. That area that for pheasants, that's pretty dang popular there, isn't it? I mean, how is the hunting pressure there? Is it getting crowded? I hear that a lot in some areas of the state where they're like, in fact, that I've heard discussion of, boy, it'd be nice if maybe they opened it up to out of state hunters a little later, and that is it pretty crowded for pheasant and some of the other upland game birds in Region 4?
You are hearing some popularity coming back to where it's amazing the bird hunters and network they have to where if the populations are down here, then they go to Region 7 or Region 6. They just travel to go where the birds are, or
Sure.
where the habitat's been good. And they do their research. And we do have some really good block management areas that you can bird hunt on that opportunity in the region. They're pretty busy on the opener. But we had some parts of the region, around Stanford that I heard wasn't busy at all the opener this year, September 1st. So I think it just depends, and it depends on how far you're willing to walk and, go during the week if you can. But our pheasant hunting is really popular around Conrad and Valier, but those numbers have been down since 19 and really haven't come back that well. But central part and eastern part of the district or region should be pretty good. I don't know. It depends on what you want to call overrun with hunters or overpopulated or what you want to say. But
Yeah,
I grew up down by South Dakota and Nebraska, so there's not much that compares to bird hunting. Number of hunters compared to over there is here, so we don't have it that bad here.
Yeah, we're still pretty spoiled, but yeah, I always get a kick out of it. It kind of depends on who you talk to. Some people, if they see another person, they go, "It's getting crowded," and others.
Right.
So, yeah, just
we try to send all the hunters that call. We try to send them over to Region 6 and 7.
Yeah, just jam them up there and keep it nice.
That's right. That's right.
All right, I'll have to let them know that, huh? So let's talk a bit about this. And we've already discussed the, getting permissions and that. But do you feel that your participation with your landowners and that, do you see that growing? Is it getting better? Is it getting not as good? Overall, is there a trend going either way for Region 4 as far as just general hunter access?
I think it's been pretty stable, to be honest with you.
Good.
We've lost a few producers in block management, but we've gained some back. We've really tried, I think, in the last 6, 7, 8 years to offer landowners enrollment in block management where it's not just a type 1 where it's sign in and go. We've really offered them opportunities for type 2, which is reservation only. And hunters seem to like that. Landowners like that where it's not just a free-for-all sign in and go. We've tried to expand block management opportunities for spring bear, spring turkey, cow elk, just different opportunities that folks may be after. One ranch might do birds and whitetails and not something else, and to us that's okay.
Yeah.
There's kind of a niche for every hunter then, but we have about we don't have as much as Region 6 or maybe 7 for block management acres, but we're pretty darn close. We have 160 block management areas and about 1.3 million acres of private lands and public lands in block management. We use a couple of other programs that are available that came from the legislature, public access lands agreements and access public lands. We have 13 cooperators in that. That's about 100,000 acres open. Our upland game bird program is doing really well. That's an opportunity that folks don't take advantage of, I don't think, as much as they should. We have 132 contracts, and that's about 150,000 acres open to bird hunting as well through that program. So
nice.
if you look at on your links you have, if you're a hunter, look on the access guide and look at the walk-in CRP program or upland game bird program and other opportunities that may exist too.
Yeah. Yeah. So, all in all, sounds like you guys have done a pretty good job there then.
Yeah, it's not too bad. I think one of the challenges is mainly for us is elk and elk access and if you want to say the traditional ranchers, if you want to say they're being bought up, I don't know if you want to say that, but just changing of ownerships of different values of where it's okay to allow hunting versus we're not going to allow any hunting, and I want as many elk as I can. That's always a challenge for hunters and us is the access to elk hunting. And if you look back, I think that's been the case since the 70s and 80s at a smaller scale, but elk hunting access is always going to be tough.
Yeah.
No matter the region.
Yeah. Yeah. So that there, I would say that one of the things you want to do there is just keep working your plan and go over that very tightly and make sure it's there. So overall, that was one of the things we were going to talk about next was just the challenges. So overall, I mean, have you pretty well laid that out as far as what your main challenge is? Is there one or two that you would say is your biggest challenge so far for Region 4?
Yeah, I think for wildlife populations, for us, the challenge is Mother Nature, mainly. Habitat will respond, obviously in different ways to Mother Nature, but for elk, the challenge is definitely access on elk, and growing elk populations. We have elk in places where we want more mule deer, and the whitetail numbers are increasing, elk numbers are increasing. Another challenge we have in our region is, we have chronic wasting disease coming in from mainly northeast Montana, and then Canada for us moving into our region. We have a little bit showing up here. Few places popping up a new positive here and there, so we're always keeping an eye on CWD. Probably a challenge just internally for our crew. Our employee numbers in our region have really grown due to grizzly bears. If you look back 8 years ago, we had one grizzly bear specialist and a 4-month technician, and now we have 2 specialists and 3 technicians year round.
Wow. So
the grizzly bear expansion onto private lands and what that brings with people's personalities and attitudes towards bears, it's a big challenge for us, and it's a challenge for landowners as these bears expand east. Producers that aren't used to having to secure their grain bins or their dog food or their horse corrals like they did before. That's going to continue to be a challenge that we have to work with, but we're working through it. We do a lot of bear education events throughout the region. I mean, there's probably close to 100 in a year. So that's always going to be a challenge for us, but yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, how about as far as some of the things you're most proud of for Region 4? Is there anything that stands out to you that you say, you know what, we did all right with that one?
Yeah, that's I don't like to brag about anything we do, really, to be honest with you. I don't like doing that, but
go ahead.
I think the private landowner relations in our region is something we always take really seriously. I think we have, as far as staff goes, I suppose every manager is going to say that, but we have great biologists. We're all hunters. We're all out in the field a lot, and we try to do really good survey and inventory work that correlates in with our season types that we try to be really reactive to. We have a really good bear team. We have a great wolf specialist and upland game bird habitat specialist. Our block management crew does a great job, and our maintenance crew does a great job. And I think our wildlife management areas, we try to manage them just like a working ranch where we use grazing systems and habitat manipulations for try to keep really good habitat, wildlife habitat and winter range for deer and elk and sheep. So I think, yeah, that's one of the biggest things I think for us. I guess you want to say being proud is our staff. We have a great staff. We work well together, and work well with our enforcement and fisheries division as well.
Yeah.
And that our keeping our block management program open and our access acres have really not changed in the last 20, 30 years, which says a lot to the region that we have pretty darn good landowner relations. And I think our lands program, like I mentioned earlier, we have 14 conservation easements, which are perpetually open to hunting forever, and that habitat is there forever. But I think we've probably proposed 25 or 30 of those in the last 10 years.
Wow.
So we really have an active lands program trying to keep that private land in farming and ranching and wildlife habitat. So I'm really proud of that. I think another big thing for us is we're really proactive on wildlife populations and working with our conservation organizations, like Safari Club International here in Great Falls chapter, Backcountry Hunters and Anglers, Mule Deer Foundation, Elk Foundation, working on these lands projects on our WMAs. And, we started a new bighorn sheep herd, worked with the wool growers program, and universities, and started a new bighorn sheep population in the Little Belts. We started on the Pine Marten Restoration Project a few years ago. That started in our region where we worked with the Montana Trappers Association and moved pine martens that were extirpated from the Little Belts. So we moved them into the Little Belts, some more into the Big Belts and the Castles, and we're continuing to expand that down to the Bridgers. So that came out of our region. We did 2 mountain goat relocation efforts to the Rocky Mountain front. I have a kind of a soft spot for wild turkeys. I love hunting wild turkeys, and since 2008, we've moved 625 turkeys in our region.
Holy smokes!
And now some of those were from Nebraska, the rest were out in other parts of Montana. But we went from moving turkeys into these river systems that did not have turkeys to now they're wide open general season opportunity. Mm-hmm. They've done so well. So that kind of stuff, we try to be really proactive on that, moving critters around where we can, and creating those new opportunities for the public and the resource.
Damn, you guys have been pretty busy, Corey. That's awesome.
Yeah,
good for you. That's
keep
awesome.
Pretty busy. Yeah. Yep.
When you take your wildlife manager hat off and just decide to go out hunting, what is your favorite thing to hunt? You mentioned turkeys. Is that your favorite thing to go after, or in region 4?
No, it's not my favorite.
What's your favorite?
My favorite. I do like turkey hunting. My favorite is antelope. If you see my
I was just going to say, there. If I'm looking at you on the video, you got a lot of antelope hanging on the wall there.
That's my favorite. Bow hunting antelope is by far my favorite. I love it.
That's really become popular in Montana, hasn't it? Bow hunting for
it antelope. It has. Unfortunately, the 900 archery is not guaranteed draw anymore, and so my dad taught me to decoy antelope in western Nebraska in high school, and since then I'm an addict.
Mm-hmm.
Chasing elk. I pretty much hunt everything there is, and I can hunt in Montana, except I don't get to draw moose, sheep, or goats. So haven't drawn one of them, but like elk hunting. Like I try to bow hunt everything. And then one of the biggest challenges, I think, I like cow elk hunting in January when it's cold and nasty, not many people out, and they are tough and smart.
Mm-hmm.
And I like the fulfillment physically and mentally of shooting a cow a long ways from the truck and deboning it and carrying it down to the truck. I just like doing that. But actually, fall walleye fishing, another favorite thing I have is fall walleye fishing. I love walleye fishing anyway, but the fall walleye fishing I really like that because everybody's hunting, and I like going to the river then.
Yeah, this is a I think fall is one of my most favorite times to fish. It just really is. The weather's so nice and it's quiet out there. So, yeah, I don't blame you there. Is there anything that we haven't touched on for Region 4 that you want to make sure that we talk about before we go, Corey?
I don't think so. Hopefully, hopefully I didn't list too many opportunities where it brings more people. But they got to stop at Region 6 or 7 or 5 first before they come to our region. But it's a good place. It's a good place. But the fall time here, it can get really windy and stay windy. And, opening of rifle season in the Little Belts, you can expect it could be 80 on Saturday and then snow up to your grill on Sunday.
Yeah.
So you never know. It's Region 4 is a good place to work, good place to live. Get all 4 seasons, definitely. I wish it stayed more like September and October.
Yeah. Be nice if that was year round, wouldn't it? Well,
yep.
Corey, I want to thank you for spending so much time with us here on the Montana Outdoor Podcast. I know this is a super busy time of the year for you guys. Well, it sounds like all year long you guys stay pretty busy in Region 4, but it is just that's an incredible region of this state. And so I really encourage people, if you haven't given that area a try, give it a try. And there's lots of links there that you can click on to get more information. And of course, I'll have a link to Corey's email. So if you got questions for him, shoot him a question. I'm sure he can answer it for you. So we'd love to spend a little more time with you. Hopefully next time I can visit in person and get out there in Region 4 with you, and you can show me some other secret spots, huh?
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah, anytime folks call, they can call our office. Our office admin staff are really, really helpful and very knowledgeable. All of our biologists and specialists are available for the public to answer questions. And,
All right. Well, there you have it, folks. That is Region 4. Hope you'll get out there and have some fun. Thanks again, Corey, for spending time with us today, and we'll talk to you soon on that, too. So, folks, again, don't forget about those links. Get out there and click those links and learn as much as you can. Get that plan going and check those regs, and then have fun. Be safe. Be good to each other, and we'll catch you next time here on the Montana Outdoor Podcast.
Thanks for listening to the Montana Outdoor Podcast. It has been brought to you in part by Superior Hardwoods of Montana, home of the largest selection of in-stock high-end wood products and flooring in the western United States. Let them guide you through the woods at superior-hardwoods.com. And by Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer in Missoula, home of Boss Snowplows, CM Truck Beds, and Diamond Sea Trailers. Just go to rmtte.com for more information. So what did you think of today's podcast? Send your questions and comments to Downrigger at montanooutdoor.com. We should be dropping a new podcast this next Saturday. Until then, we will see you soon out in Montana's great outdoors.